Hey guys, I'm Fancy.
And I'm Colleen.
And this is Murder by Design.
Welcome back, guys. Super excited for you to join us on these episodes. We're going to be talking about Lauria Bible and Ashley Freeman out of Welch, Oklahoma. This case was featured in a documentary called Hell in the Heartland, which is based off of this book, Hell in the Heartland, by Jax Miller. And throughout this episode and our next episodes, you're going to hear clips from our interview with Jax Miller.
Yes, and it was really interesting listening to her. She did a lot of work on this case. It was an amazing series on HLN. I don't know if you can find it on there still, but it was a super good case that she went through. And she basically took a case that nobody was looking at any longer and really brought it to trying to find the person. And I think they've done a lot with that. So it's going to be an interesting story that we break over these next 3 episodes. So keep on coming back each week to hear a little bit more. Tonight, we're going to talk about the Lauria Bible and Ashley Freeman, the beginning of the case. Lauria Jaylene Bible, born April 18, 1983, and Ashley Renee Freeman, born December 29, 1983, were American teenagers who disappeared between the evening of December 29th and the early morning hours of December 30th, 1999, from Freeman's home in Welch, Oklahoma.
Firefighters arrived at the Freeman home shortly after 5:30 in the morning on December 30th, when a passerby had reported a fire at the residence. So this home is literally in the middle of nowhere, empty fields, far as the eye can see. So the flames high, but by the time they had actually got there, the fire was already pretty much over. But once they had finished putting out the fire, the body of Freeman's parents, at least for the meantime, only Kathy was found. She had been shot in the head. But the law enforcement was unable to find any trace of Lauria and Ashley and Danny.
So, they didn't find his body the first time through? What? I don't understand how you don't find a dead body.
So it is an interesting story, and we're going to talk about it, but this investigation had flaws right from the very beginning that caused very much a lot of speculation all over the country in whether the sheriff's office was involved in this, whether it was drugs, whether it was murder, what was it? So there were so many theories, but there were issues right away.
So Danny is found in the rubble of the home, and unfortunately, that's just the beginning of how crazy this case gets. And we always say that. There are also some major updates on the case, and I mean major updates on the case when we get to it in more episodes this next few weeks. So we have also done a full interview with Jax Miller, who you will hear clips of throughout the episode, and can listen to the whole thing on our Patreon or our website membership.
So this case, really fascinated me. I found it on, HLN. I thought it was extremely well done. It was made in 2019. It has a very much similar vibe to the Netflix Don't F with Cats in the way that it's a civilian investigator wanting to find justice. And it's put together wonderfully. And it's, in the middle of freaking nowhere. And we're going to be talking about this with Todd Matthews. He's the former director of NAMIS, Missing People. And these girls are missing. So we're going to be talking with him about how the actual investigation played out with OSBI, and, if there were things that could have been done differently that would have helped find them sooner, and likely scenarios of what most likely would have happened in a normal situation like this.
Right. There's a lot of different things that could have happened to these girls. And you have to take in consideration that the parents were murdered first. So the girls just not supposed to be there that night, and they were just targeting the parents, and then those girls were there. And so they were like, oh shit, we don't want to kill kids. Or were the kids the actual real target that they wanted these children? It can go so many different ways. Lots of people have different thought processes on it, but it's just a strange case.
Right. And, once, we get into the details for you guys, you'll see that it's the timing and the area of which they lived that plays a really significant role in the people around them. Like this town and the towns surrounding it are in a mining community, which many of them are now ghost towns because of contamination. That it's, December 30th of 1999, Y2K is happening, people. And so there's so much happening. And there's a lot of crime in the area involving drugs. In Jax Miller's book, it literally is titled The Hell in the Heartland, Murder, Meth, and the Case of Two Missing Girls. So that will play a role, later on in the case. But it is a fascinating case, and there's really not much information. There were a few, brief, quick television, episodes, missing people, but they were back in 2000 when this happened. Really nothing ever since.
Right. Well, it's going to be an interesting story, guys, and it's going to unfold over 3 nights, 3 weeks here. So keep coming back, but we're going to go ahead and get into how all this started.
On the night of December 29th of 1999, Ashley Freeman celebrated her 16th birthday with her best friend, Laura, her parents, Danny and Kathy Freeman, and her boyfriend, Jeremy Hurst. They celebrated at the Freeman's mobile home in Vinita, Oklahoma. And Jeremy had left around 9:30. And so Laura's father, Jay, actually recalled the last time he had seen his daughter. He says, quote, "Laura said to me, 'Daddy, is it all right if I spend the night with Ashley in the Freeman's home?' I said, 'Well, just make sure you're home by noon tomorrow.' And noon tomorrow didn't happen the way it should have."
Yeah. So sometime during the night or early morning hours of December 30th, 1999, a fire erupted inside the Freeman's mobile home. A concerned neighbor called the fire department at 5:30 a.m. on the morning of December 30th, 1999. Laura's parents and the police immediately canvassed the rubble for signs of the Freemans and Laura. The charred remains of Kathy were discovered lying on the floor of her bedroom. She had been shot in the head, and luckily they had a waterbed, and when it exploded from the fire, she was able to remain mostly intact, but Danny and the girls' bodies were nowhere to be found. An autopsy determined that Kathy had been shot to death. Arson investigators determined that the fire had been deliberately set. And so police then theorized that Danny killed Kathy and abducted the girls, but then they released the scene that day, and never have I seen a location cleared so quickly when 3 people were still missing.
Literally that day. So, they get there at 5:30, the family is there, and by that evening, clear the scene, release it to the public.
I've never seen anything like that.
They have it in, you'll hear some clips about it, but that they've seen car accidents have a longer processing of the scene. This is an arson. This is a murder. There are missing people. And to just, here, go for it. And they pretty much told the family that, you can go dig around, see if you find something that we didn't. What? No. So that next day, Laura's parents went to the rubble, hoping to find a clue. And Lorraine and Jay noticed that the Freeman's dog, a Rottweiler, was laying next to the waterbed. So after 5 minutes, they were shocked to discover something that investigators had missed. Another body, burned almost beyond recognition. The dog had been lying next to the man's unrecognizable body as if guarding him. The investigators
that is ridiculous.
The investigators
How do you miss a body? I just don't understand.
The investigators had apparently been stepping on and around him while processing this crime scene.
What?
I don't know. And you'll hear Jay's voice, but he said that it looked like hamburger meat.
Wow.
They found a body. Process this. They had to find their friend's body. Not just,
oh my God.
His shirt is still here. Oh, there's some keys in the ground. No, they found his entire body that the OSBI or the sheriff's office had just released to the public.
I mean, what did they think it was more of the dog? I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get what they would be thinking that was, but whatever. It was identified as Danny's body, obviously, and he had also been shot to death at close range with a shot. Autopsies determined both Danny and Kathy had sustained gunshot wounds to the head, and that Danny's right collarbone had been fractured prior to his death. So that's pretty hard to do, guys. Like fracturing a
That's
collarbone, it's not easy. I mean, it takes a good amount of trauma.
right. It's a very sturdy bone. Obviously, it protects, your rib cage and your heart. And so, my theory of, when this happens is that whoever comes in takes like the butt of a gun, bashes it in their shoulder, and then shoots him. And then because Kathy was in the bed, I'm thinking, Danny was probably first and then shot Kathy. But I mean, obviously, I wasn't there. Nobody really the hell knows.
I don't know.
But Ashley and Laura's bodies were not in the rubble among Danny's, nor were there anywhere in the vicinity. However, another search of the property, again later, not that day, not the day they found people, no. Another search of the property turned up an important clue. Laura's purse, which was left behind with her driver's license and $200 inside, were found on the side of the road. And her car keys were in the ignition of the car. So this suggested that the girls might have been abducted. It also led police to rule out robbery as a motive since the money was left behind.
Right. So, and another theory speculated that Danny was a small-time drug trafficker. Danny was a known marijuana grower, and the Freemans may have been targeted for drugs and or cash on the premises. Ashley had been saving money for her first car, estimated to be between $3,000 to $4,000, and stashing it in the freezer. Do we not know what banks are?
I mean, it's a really very, very, very small town in the middle of nowhere. Like, I don't know if they have a bank in that town, and at that time, who knows if they were trusting the bank, and is it cash from the marijuana sales? I mean, it's
right. So the police were unable to locate Ashley's savings, which does suggest that the murders and disappearance could be the result of a robbery. However, Laura's purse was found at the scene and was said to contain $200, calling into question if the robbery was motive. But you know what I think about that, though? Like, okay, so Laura is the friend that was staying over, right? So they wouldn't have been thinking to take her stuff, because I mean, she's just a high school student. How much money could she possibly have? We're walking away with thousands of dollars, and just because Ashley only had $3,000 to $4,000, you have no idea how much the parents had stashed somewhere. So if it's a robbery, it could still be a robbery, right? So
true. And I mean, it still actually comes into question. Remember, 1999. Who the hell has $200 in your purse?
Yeah.
It's like carrying $1,000 right now. I don't carry $1,000 in my wallet.
No, I don't either. Unless I'm going to the store for something, then yeah, I might. But generally, I carry most of my money on my card, and then, a little bit in cash, right? So
pretty much I only have cash if I know I need cash, like someplace doesn't take a card.
I do it for an emergency situation. Like I always try to have like $20, $30 in my purse, but no, I'm not walking around with $1,000. No.
Right. It's just it's an like they're 16-year-olds. Like that's a lot of money to have in your purse.
Maybe she just cashed her paycheck though, or something. If she had like a little job, who knows?
Right. And it was after Christmas. Maybe she got money for Christmas. So totally plausible.
Right.
According to an informant, he had met with 2 unidentified men 2 weeks before the murders. One was apparently not welcome on the Freeman's property. However, that theory did not fit well with the girl's disappearance. Even more, it seemed that the last thing a robber or a rival drug dealer would want to do after committing murder is kidnap 2 teenagers. Unless, of course, the person or persons at the scene made the disturbing decision in the moment that taking the young women to torment and assault them was too good of an opportunity to pass up. And it would seem unlikely that the killers would abduct them and not just kill them at the scene.
Right.
So, very plausible, especially we see that now, it's an opportunity crime. You came to kill the parents for money and drugs, and there's some teenage girls here.
Ooh, let's
take them.
Let's just not kill them just yet, Joe.
Yeah, so. Pretty much.
So there were no suspects in the case, but 3 months before his death, Danny had told his brother Dwayne Vansell that should anything happen to him, to look into the Craig County Sheriff's Department. And the alleged feud between the department and the Freemans began when Danny's son Shane was shot and killed by a deputy after he stole a truck and a neighbor's gun. These are not really reputable people here, guys. I mean, let's say. But although the shooting was ruled justifiable, Danny was planning to file a wrongful death lawsuit against the department just before the tragic fire. Rumor had it members of the department were trying to intimidate the Freemans, and also Danny had warned his brother Dwayne that if anything happened to Danny, that the Craig County Sheriff's Department was responsible.
So, I mean, it definitely leads into, the fears of the community, and obviously their family, like, was the department involved? I mean, it's a lot of stuff to do, but we've seen it in other cases where,
yes.
They have been involved in something, specifically with the Rodney Reed case. They were involved. So
Absolutely.
It's not totally far-fetched, but
No.
It definitely was something that was, hard to believe, but could happen. But did the members of the Sheriff's Department play a role in the disappearance? Highly unlikely. First of all, the Craig County Sheriff's Department voluntarily turned the case over to Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, OSBI. And additionally, members of the Sheriff's Department took polygraph tests, and Special Agent Steve Nutter of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation cleared the Sheriff's Office of any and all wrongdoing. And the deputies volunteered to remove themselves from the investigation right away. They had passed those polygraph tests, and it's, it just led them to understand that if they had done something, it would have shown up on the polygraph.
I mean, not necessarily though, Colleen. I mean, especially law enforcement, they know how to beat a polygraph test. I mean,
true.
I don't put stock in polygraph tests at all in eliminating people. Generally, I do put stock in it as to indicating people, because eliminating, a lot of factors go into it eliminating people. That's why it's not allowed in court for that purpose, is because people can beat them. And if you know if you know how to, it's not that freaking hard. But
right. I mean, back then, I guess it is even more likely that could have happened. It would have been, a wise thing to, redo some polygraphs later on. But by the time, later on has happened, there were further developments in the case.
I mean, polygraphs have been around forever and ever and ever. So that's the thing. Like, they've been around forever and they're still not admissible in court. And there's a very good reason for that,
Because some people are really good liars, and some people have convinced themselves that what they are saying is the truth. And to them, it shows up as the truth, even though it's not, because for them, that is their truth.
Right. Sociopaths are known for passing polygraphs too. So.
Right. But Steve Nutter had said, quote, "All cleared themselves as a result of the examinations and interviews. The overall conclusion of our efforts was that the sheriff's office had nothing to do with the murders of Danny and Kathy and did not know the whereabouts of the two missing girls." But again, it could not. But that was that.
Right. Others believed Ashley killed her parents because of friction between her and Danny. But authorities believe that the girls couldn't have hidden out for long if that theory was to be believed. Laura's family also does not believe that either girl would be capable of murder, and investigators dismiss this theory due to a lack of evidence. In fact, both young women were considered well-behaved and good students with bright futures. Also, if they did commit the murders and then flee, it is likely Laura would have taken her purse, and moreover, it is unlikely they both would have been able to remain hidden all of these years. Agent Nutter explained, "I find it difficult to believe that the girls by themselves could hide out that long and not be found."
And I don't think, like I said before, they lived in the middle of nowhere. The neighbor had saw the fire, and the neighbor was still, blocks away. If the girls had wandered off from the scene, they would have been spotted and would have been found. And there's no way they were walking, 10 miles to the nearest town to hitch a ride in a car, because there was cars there. The keys were in the car, and they didn't take the car.
They didn't take the cars, right? And unless the only option that could have been for this would have been if there had been like an accomplice to the girls. They planned this, they did this. That's why she wanted to stay the night. I mean, stranger things have happened, but is it likely? No.
Right. And unfortunately, pretty much all of the year 2000 was dead ends. And in June 14th of 2001, authorities actually searched Paul Glover's Wyandotte home based on information from a jailhouse snitch. So they had this guy had been thought to have had some parties. He was, was a creepy dude, and they were like, he got this in tip that, hey, there may be some blood at his house. Maybe you should look into him. So they did, and OSBI removed a patch of blood-stained carpet. But testing reveals that it was not related to the teens. And I think it was actually related to his own blood or some deer blood. I can't remember which one. But it wasn't them. They found no evidence that the girls were ever in that home.
Right.
And so, again, we're back here with no clue.
This episode has been sponsored by the Oliphant Institute. The Good Wives and Murder by Design have been actively taking criminal justice courses at Oliphant Institute. Our good friend, Stephen David Lampley, who is one of our regular guests on this YouTube channel, is a 24-year retired SVU detective and founder of the Institute. Stephen himself teaches each class, and they are no longer than an hour. They are super informative and very interesting, and you cannot beat the price at each class only costing $20. If you're interested in learning more about serial killers, human decomposition, and many other criminal justice topics, but don't really care about a degree, then the Oliphant Institute is the right place for you. So head on over to the Oliphant Institute, that's Oliphant Institute.com, and get registered for a class today.
The local authorities had launched a search for the teenagers. Nearby lakes, mine shafts, and quarries were searched to no avail. And the search stretched far beyond Oklahoma state lines, but nothing. And it even extended from Canada to Mexico. So they were searching everywhere for these girls. And next week, we'll dive further into this case, and we'll talk about the more searches, the investigation, and kind of bring you into where we are. And then in our third episode, we'll say actually where we are.
Today, yeah, because there's been a lot of interesting stuff that's come out this year. So a big break in the case, I mean, it's been kind of cold for a long time. And I think a lot of that has to do with Jax Miller, and,
yes,
and what
100%
forward. It's the same thing with when we were interviewed Paul Haynes the other day, talking about what Michelle McNamara did with I'll Be Gone in the Dark and what he, helped her do. Even though it didn't necessarily, they never actually investigated D'Angelo, they did bring a lot of attention to it, and it put a lot of pressure on the police to go ahead and, solve the crime. And the same thing with Jax Miller, but I think she was even more paramount than even like the I'll Be Gone in the Dark people, because man, oh man, did she really put this all together,
Right. Her and another woman worked on it with her. Like, they went to the town. They talked to family members. They talked to acquaintances. They talked to people living in the town. They talked to everybody. They were very close with the family and still are helping to try to find them. And they've also talked to the investigators and the sheriff's office and OSBI. And so you've heard some of the clips in this episode, and you'll hear more of them in our next episodes. But right, she was so instrumental in helping to figure out this case.
And she's just an amazing person too.
Yeah, she is. She's
I
very
really enjoyed
sweet.
Talking with her. Yeah, very smart, very sweet. So
and it was an honor to talk to her.
Oh, absolutely. And she's got a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline too. So you're going to want to follow her. Her book just released, the one that Colleen has. It just came out, The Hell in the Heartland. Week. So you guys definitely should pick that up because it's got amazing information in it. So, alrighty guys, we'll tune back in next week to hear more about the investigation. Hey guys, so a couple nights ago, we launched a special campaign along with Cheryl McCollum from the Cold Case Research Institute called Love Wins. And what this is it is our answer to all the chaos that's kind of going on right now. The chaos from the riots, the chaos from all the different, pandemic, everything that's happening in our lives right now, all the issues with, the different lost lives that we've had from before the protesting, after the protesting. So all the lost lives that have come out of this, the lost lives of COVID even. And so #LoveWins is a movement to usher in peace, and knowing that above all, the only way that we're going to get through all of this is loving each other. So what we're actually doing here is we are creating a scholarship fund in remembrance of all the lost lives in 2020 so far, and ushering in peace. And this scholarship fund will go to anyone that wants to go ahead and enter to win. The criteria is really cool. All you have to do is make a 30-second video of yourself and explaining to us how you lead with love. And we are looking for college age students that are, struggling. Maybe they can't get scholarships. Maybe there's a reason, that they aren't available for them, or it's just not enough for them. And so this is our way of helping out. We're hoping to raise about $5,000. If we raise more than that, then we'll look into giving more than one scholarship away. The way that we're doing this is we have some merchandise. It's #LoveWins merchandise. And there's also Lead with Love merchandise. They've got shirts, cups, mugs, stickers, anything you could possibly want. And we're going to have it on a couple different platforms. Currently, we're doing some on TeePublic, but I'm working on some on Cafe Press too, because they have a lot more variety of merchandise. And so we'll be donating a portion of the proceeds that we collect on this merchandise to the scholarship fund that we are creating. And then we also have a GoFundMe that will be listed in the show notes of our YouTube show and our podcast. And you guys can click on it and you can donate any amount you'd like. And all of the proceeds from that are going to go ahead and go to the scholarship fund. And we'll be showing you exactly how the money is distributed, how it's collected. We're going to be very transparent with this. We're working with some amazing professionals that from like Cheryl from the Cold Case Institute, Stephen David Lampley from the Oliphant Institute, the leading death investigator, Joseph Scott Morgan. So we're working with all of them to really show how much love wins over everything and bringing peace to a country that we really need it right now. So that's what we're doing. And we're going to go ahead and play our entries at the top of every podcast and every YouTube until we choose a winner. And our special guests that we have each week, the different people that come on and are here with us, Cheryl and Stephen and Joseph, they'll all be a part of choosing that lucky winner or winners, depending on how much we end up getting donated. So I hope that you guys join us in #LoveWins. And we hope that we get some really great entrants because we really want to see how you lead with love. Well, thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives and Murder by Design.
Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get exclusive mini episodes, inside documents and pictures from the case, live YouTube discussions, our exclusive discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at truecrimewives.
And for more inside information, check out our podcast, The Good Wives Guide to True Crime, on any of your favorite podcast players. Have a good one from The Good Wives, serving up true crime one dish at a time.